Well, well. This is a last minute decision to stream live because I wanted to give my initial reactions right away. I know I didn't warn you guys ahead of time. I know this is a last minute thing. I wasn't even planning on going live, but at the end of the day, I just made the brass decision to just go ahead, go live with this. And man, who would have thought? Who would have thought the Eagles would do what they did tonight? Nobody saw this coming. And I mean, nobody saw the Chiefs getting dominated the way they did. Nobody would have saw this because I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was rooting against the Chiefs. I think most of the United States of America was rooting against the Chiefs. But this game was going, it went no way how we expected. No way. Because it's like, at the end of the day, yeah, we know these were two very good football teams. Yeah, we all know the Chiefs have kind of been skating by with some of the penalties and things like that. But nobody saw the Chiefs getting dominated by this Eagles team. Nobody. I mean, for them to come out and really dominate this football game the way that they did, for the Philadelphia Eagles to really just come out of this ball game, and they dominated from snap one, basically. They got after Patrick Mahomes. They made him uncomfortable. And it's just one of those things with this game that it's any given Sunday because there's no way, and I mean no way, no one expected this from the Kansas City Chiefs to get absolutely dominated the way that they did. And to be honest, I'm happy about it because no way in hell I want to see the Chiefs win again. No way I want to see all the Super Bowl 3P commercials and all that have been dominating our TV screens. So I appreciate the Chiefs' greatness. I appreciate them being able to dominate the AFC like they have. But it's just a lot of people in football circles are just kind of not happy with the way things have been going with them. But either way it goes, the Philadelphia Eagles with the 40-22 win are now your Super Bowl champions of Super Bowl 59. Shout out to my guy loyal to Houston. What's happening? And it's a great thing to see. The Eagles are now champions. The Eagles are champions. And it's just with this thing that a lot of people will say that all the game is rigged or they didn't do. They got after Mahomes. 6 sacks on the game. 6 sacks for a Philadelphia Eagles defense that we all know they can get after the quarterback. We all know they can make things happen. We all know this Eagles team has played one of the better defensive games that has ever been played against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the one thing that I will say about the Kansas City Chiefs is that, quite frankly, this game and this matchup was built for the Eagles. And this is why I say this. This matchup was built for the Eagles because, number one, and I said this in my preview, the Chiefs didn't have that down the field threat outside of Xavier Worthy that can scare you. Yeah, he had a long threat, but it was later on in the ball game. Travis Kelce has just not been the same football player that we've been accustomed to. That's number two. And then when we think about it, it's just, I don't personally think, I'm doing some other things on the side as well. I just didn't personally think that the way the Chiefs were performing at the offensive level will be enough to beat a team that has been flying all around the field now, like the Philadelphia Eagles have had this defensive season for them. I just figured the Chiefs didn't have enough offensively to beat them. And the one thing the Chiefs did not do, and I don't think they could have done because of the way that the front four for the Philadelphia Eagles played, the Chiefs couldn't run the ball. The Chiefs really could not run the ball at all. Because when we look at this Chiefs, the Chiefs as an offense, that front four of the Eagles were dominant, whether we're talking about Javon Carter, whether we're talking about a guy like Milton Williams up front, Nolan Smith, Josh Sweat, who could have been in the running for Super Bowl MVP with the game he had. Milton Williams had a very good game with 2 sacks of his own. So the way that this front four dominated, guys like Jordan Davis, the way that this front four played, Brandon Graham, we could add him to the list, even though he was coming off of the torn bicep. This game for the Philadelphia Eagles was dominated by their front four. They dominated Kansas City Chiefs offensive line that a lot of people knew was one of the bad parts of this Kansas City Chiefs team was the protection for Patrick Mahomes up front. And in a game like this, and having the names and having the bodies and having the ability and having the scheme led by defensive coordinator Vic Fangio that the Philadelphia Eagles had, I think styles of play made this ball game the way it was. Personnel made this ball game what it was because the one thing the Chiefs didn't do, they only ran the ball 11 times, and that is a credit to how dominant the front four of this Eagles defense is. So you're playing, you're kind of playing a bit empty-handed or a bit short-handed, a bit one-sided. And this is what I said in my preview. You guys can go back and watch the footage. I said you're going to have to put the ball so much in Patrick Mahomes' hands if you're an Eagles defense. Because if you are able to run the football with a Kansas City Chiefs offense, they are harder to stop. And then I said it sounds crazier to say to make the Chiefs one-dimensional what we know what Patrick Mahomes can do. But the last, and I talked about this because from Super Bowl 2 years ago to now, the Chiefs are a very different offense. They run the football a lot more with Hunt, with Pacheco coming back healthy. Mahomes did a little bit more with his legs. And if you shut down the run, if you're able to make them one-dimensional, that Chiefs offense is not as successful if they are a pass-happy offense. And it sounds crazy to say with Mahomes, but look at it. 2 interceptions, one ended up being a pick six, and they both – and another thing that made those interceptions even more deadlier was that the Eagles won the field position game. When you have the Chiefs starting drives from inside their own 10, inside their own 15-yard line, with the offense that really has lacked their explosion of plays, that plays right into the Philadelphia Eagles' hands, and that is exactly what happened tonight. Now, did anybody expect a blowout in this game? Absolutely not. No one expected that. No one expected this game to be a blowout. No one expected the Eagles to come in and dominate it. Did I have the Eagles to win? Yes, and it was for more reasons than the fact that I'm not a big fan of the Chiefs and the way the media does it. It's just the fact that I kind of figured in a ball game like this is that this Philadelphia Eagles team, it was just one of those football teams that was clicking on all cylinders. And then we talk about Saquon Barkley. He only had 57 yards rushing on 25 carries. He did not have a great game. And I thought a great game would have been what would have took him, but the Eagles defense basically took over this ball game. The Eagles as an offense, they were efficient. Jalen Hurts, 11 rushes for 72 yards, along with 221, 2 TDs. He did have that pick, which was caused by the blitz, and the Eagles in the interior of their offensive line were unable to pick up that blitz. But it was one of those type of games that the Eagles didn't have to do too much offensively. That Eagles defense basically took this ball game over and made this game what it was. So when we look at this particular ball game, this particular Super Bowl, it was basically dominated by the Eagles defense. So if I get the Super Bowl MVP is almost basically a quarterback award at this point, but we could easily gave it to Josh Sweat in the way he played on this Philadelphia Eagles defense. We could have gave it to Milton Williams that played a hell of a game on his Eagles defense. We could have gave it to Cooper DeJean, who had a very good game for this Eagles defense. So, and then he had the pick six on his birthday. I didn't even know it was his birthday in midway of the ball game. And then Saquon Barkley gets a ring on his birthday as well. So shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles. Shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs because we were on the cusp of witnessing history of the first team that possibly could have been the first team that three-peated the Super Bowl. So I want to give a shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs for doing that. And most teams don't get back to the Super Bowl when they try to three-peat. And I got to give the Chiefs credit. They at least got back. Now, another thing I kind of want to touch on when we're talking about the way that this Eagles defense played, they didn't blitz at all. They were not a blitzing team. They didn't blitz. And for them to play this type of a ball game and they didn't blitz, it's like, wow. Vic Fangio called the game of his life. He called the absolute game of his life. And the Eagles defense played hella great football. So I think this game came down to, at least for me in my preview, I said this Eagles defense could have been the difference, and Saquon Barkley could have been the difference between the Eagles winning and losing this game. Well, Saquon Barkley didn't have that great of a game, but when you have Jalen Hurts, his ability to scramble, and his ability and Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore's ability to call, scheme, and play against that Chiefs blitz-heavy package, this is a game that this is probably the first time I'm probably ever saying this, at least in the last 5 or 6 years. Andy Reid got outcoached. The Chiefs got outcoached. It's kind of crazy that you can actually say that, and it has truth to it. The Eagles got outcoached. I mean, not the Eagles. The Eagles outcoached. They out-schemed the Kansas City Chiefs. It really seems like that. They really got out-schemed, and they really got outcoached by the Philadelphia Eagles. I love Andy Reid because back in the day, I was a big fan of McNabb and T.O. and some of those, and Breed Dog, some of those Eagles teams. So no slight against Andy Reid. But in this particular game, in this particular Super Bowl, they just got out coached. And the Chiefs' offensive line got dominated. And the Chiefs' offense was not able to be, but only so effective. And a lot of their scoring and a lot of their effectiveness came late in the game when the game was basically already decided. And it's crazy to think that this Super Bowl went the way that it did. It was 34-0 before the Chiefs scored, which sounds crazy. It's 34-0 before the Chiefs even scored a point. And the way that Chiefs team has been playing, and I almost, and not at the writing on the wall, but it almost felt like the inevitable was going to happen with somehow, some way, the Chiefs were going to get exposed the way they did tonight. They get so many close games, so many close calls, but the way that Nick Sirianni, the way that Vic Fangio, the way that Kellen Moore had this Eagles team prepared, they pretty much dominated from snap. Mahomes was uncomfortable the entire game. The Chiefs defensively, yeah, they did do solid against Saquon Barkley, but the Eagles made the necessary plays when they had to make those necessary plays. So this game really just came down to the domination of the Eagles defense, the domination of the Eagles front four. And shout out to Howie Roseman and the GM of the Eagles, the way he built this football team. And I know Bears fans are still going to be clamoring to we should have drafted Patrick Mahomes. We should have drafted Javon Carter. Javon Carter fits right there in Philly. the way that the Eagles scheme up their defense and the way that Eagles defense is built, he fits right into it with Jordan Davis, with a guy like a Nolan Smith Jr., with a guy like Milton Williams, who's a very good rotational piece. Brandon Graham, they're going to lose him to retirement, but and a guy like Zack Baun in the middle of their defense who had an all-pro breakout year. Josh Sweat had a dominant football game tonight. This was a game dominated by that front four. When I say that again, this was a football game that was dominated by the Eagles front four. This was a football game that was just absolutely and just absolutely dominated. And when you're talking about this Eagles team, and we're talking about the way the Eagles have been playing kind of all season long, a lot of it was predicated on the legs of Hurts and in the body of work that Saquon Barkley has put in. But people want to kind of, I'm not gonna say speculate, but people kind of wanted to, oh, Jalen Hurts is in the top 10. Jalen Hurts has thrown for this many yards. No one cares unless you're winning. And if you're losing football games, no, yeah, but they're winning football games. Who should have cared? Eagles are winning football games, and they won the same way. It was a game dominated by the Eagles. And the Eagles in the trenches, especially the defense. Shout out to the Chiefs. Shout out to Mahomes. Shout out to Andy Reid. But I think the Chiefs' problem got exposed of this. They don't have a lot of top-tier weapons to go to. And I've said it. Travis Kelce has lost a step. He's lost a step, which is fine. He's the older guy, going into the older years of his career. It's going to happen. Now, this was an unexpected outcome, but for me, a guy who I'm not going to say despise the Chiefs, but hey, it's glad to get somebody different in the Super Bowl championship. It's glad to get somebody different. But this was I'm not going to lie, this is a very good game plan by Sirianni. Very good game plan. So, overall, what a hell of a showing. And congratulations to my guy, Eagle Owl, formerly our committee analyst, who is a diehard Eagles fan. And I know he's turning up, and he'll probably see this. Shout out to you, my bro. Your Eagles are Super Bowl champions. But I don't want to make this too much longer. You guys know I'm not really that big of a streamer to begin with. So I'll conclude this now. The Eagles are your 2024-25 Super Bowl champions. And I'm going to be honest, I'm glad the Chiefs didn't win. So both of my football seasons ended well. My college football season ended with the Ohio State University. My Buckeyes won the national championship. And the NFL seasons end without the Chiefs winning it. So happy, man. Sucks that this is the bittersweet end of the football season as we know it. But that doesn't mean the content for me will stop. I got videos coming on the way, and we can talk about that later. Saints probably going to hire Kellen Moore, which I had that video kind of wanted to do for a while. I was like recapping all the head coaching hires. I got Bears top moments. I've also got some other videos playing. So I'll catch you guys in a little bit later. More content still to come despite the season being over with. Still got free agency to go over. We still got draft prospects. All that to talk about. Trades. This stuff is going to happen. I think this is shaping out to be a crazy off season. But we end it with the Chiefs being Super Bowl champions. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.